We are going to witness the resurgence of slow content. And so many people are burnt out from social media in the current way that we're going. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down some of the trends that we're seeing as a content strategist and content creator myself, who's generated hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views with people who have these same exact opinions. And for reference, my name is Toby. I go by Ogun99. I'm a content creator and creative strategist for premium brands, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and musicians. So if you want to learn everything about social media, the new phase of the internet, most definitely make sure you guys follow. But basically, to summarize, one of the main points that I think we're going to start to see based on some of my own data and some of the data that we see in social media is that we saw a peak of social media consumption all the way back in 2022. COVID-19 forced people into social media and these digital spaces in a way that was fundamentally unnatural. And we've already seen an increase in the amount of people who are creating content and people who are trying to make content creation a side hustle. And that's not necessarily inherently bad, but you do need to understand that these platforms are businesses. So one of the first phases of the rise of slow content is that it's a counterposition or a reaction to retention editing. And retention editing in no way, shape, or form is dead. It still works for creators like Mr. Beast and all of these streamers that develop these highly entertaining and educational scripts. I do believe there's a component of that type of content creation that is very targeted towards kids. And what I essentially mean by that is I was working on some faceless channels. For reference, that's what I used to do, but I was working on some faceless channel ideas to see how I can make some extra money. And when I was doing research, one of my little cousins came up to me and they were just glued to the screen. They were glued to these videos that this creator was making, who was making around $15,000 to $20,000 a month just with short form TikToks. And it's because he would animate and create his content in a way that was so visually stimulating, it was basically guaranteed to work. That's why brain rot and all of these forms of editing are so popular. It's because it's geared towards children. Because if you can make your message consumable towards children, it will do better. And this is just a fundamental marketing technique in general. Alex Hormozi and tons of other copywriters and people who are extremely good marketers will say the same exact thing. The more you can simplify your messaging, the longer it's going to last and the better it's going to work. Because, for example, there's something called the total addressable market. And as you scale your paid advertising or organic content strategy to go from, a small niche to like really top of funnel mass, appeal to an audience that reaches, mass scale, you have to simplify your messaging. Because you can't take a video that's relatively complicated or sophisticated and show it to an audience of 100 million people. One, because they won't give a shit, but two, they won't understand. And the reason why these algorithms are structured in these slot machine forms and all the content seems so childish and stupid is because, one, it is geared towards children. And that's what works. That's why it retains people so well. Because if a child can watch it and it can stimulate a child, then there's going to be the same fundamentals of stimulating the brain of a 30-year-old or a 50-year-old. And that's why social media is relatively for younger people. But based on some statistics I was able to find is that some of the retention in terms of how fast people are swiping off your video is the average social media user spends around 1.7 seconds on your video before they swipe off. I mean, think about how fast that is. 1.7 seconds is what you have to attract this new audience of people. And there's a large percentage of people who don't want that anymore. It's fundamentally unnatural to spend so much time on social media and be so fast in terms of your decision making. You were meant to read books and have slow sunsets, slow evenings, slow mornings, conversations that aren't flying 1,000 miles per minute. And that part of our brain that's being hijacked by these short form content machines is really exploiting us. And that's why I'm even now shifting to just long form content, because it's, one, worth more of my time and I can help kind of educate people from a business perspective. Full transparency, it's just easier for me to sell in a long form asset than trying to sell on short form. But yeah, to get back to that initial point is that people's attention spans have been declining ever since 2000, 2010, and the rise of short form content that we're watching now only makes it worse. So now TikTok completion rates are basically 75% in order for it to reach algorithmic distribution. So something that you have to understand is, in order for your video to be pushed out, it has to have a very high completion rate. On YouTube Shorts, there's something called swipe rate and, complete to the end, or completion who watched fully. And when I had a video that hit 12 million views, my watch to the end rate was 15%, 20%. That means 20% of the people basically stayed to the end. And it's very, very important to understand that, because that's how these platforms make money. It's all based on this retention editing structure, or this style of retention editing. And that's what's giving birth to the rise of slow content. More people are stepping off of social media. They're realizing it's fake. There's fatigue with influencers, content creators that just want their money, and people want micro niche audiences and creators. Now, the second thing that I think is really going to be a signal of this rise of slow content is the rise of run clubs, the rise of pickleball. People want in-person connection more than ever before, and social media, which was promised to connect us and to be a place where creativity and connection thrives, is the complete opposite. It's a place where people are more isolated and fed into echo chambers than ever. And this is an advantage if you're a business owner that wants to run ads and indoctrinate people to buy your product or service. But as a user, sometimes it's not necessarily the best. You have a shit ton of undisclosed ads, etc., and you don't really get to connect in the same way that you would if you were to meet people in person. And that's why I believe the merger of content creation and in-person connection is going to be the future. And pickleball was literally one of the fastest growing sports in like modern history, because of the fact that people are it's not even a new sport. It's just people are so tired of like sitting online and pretending that we're actually connecting versus going out and actually connecting. And one of the things that I think we're now starting to see just as a general trend in internet culture is the rise of this desire of nostalgia, or this nostalgic desire to go back to the way old things are or were. And that's just something that happens all throughout human history. But in particular, I think the rise of digital high-speed dopamine type of content is actually not natural, and people would actually prefer to go back to podcasts, Substack. Long-form content creation has been this trend that has been increasing over the years, because you can start to truly connect with yourself that way. It's very hard to connect with someone else, or as a creator connect with your audience, when all you're doing is these short form type of content creation. And it's still effective. You can still generate cash collected, revenue, etc. with short form content. But there are downfalls to how it was structured and set up so we could continuously keep scrolling and spend more and more time on the platform. And you can even tell one of the reasons why we're starting to see the rise of slow content is TikTok added these longer videos. You can now upload 60 minutes on TikTok, similar to what you can do on YouTube, because TikTok is trying to become a search engine. The more that TikTok becomes a search engine, it can compete with YouTube. As a creator on TikTok as well, I don't think they're going to be able to compete with YouTube because they're paying absolute dog shit for RPMs. But it is important to know that TikTok is being used as a search engine from an SEO perspective, which is something that I also do for my clients in terms of understanding their overall brand presence and impressions, and how our content strategy not only impacts the actual viewers coming from social media, but also their website, organic SEO, Reddit. Just overall content optimization is what I do. And I've seen success in every facet of that because I really understand the trend of the way things are going. People want human-based first types of content. And with the way TikTok is shifting, and the rise of TikTok in the first place really gave birth to this trend of high-speed dopamine content. And now on the backs of that, we're starting to see it fizzle out and just become a part of a comprehensive content strategy. And if you're a brand or a creator, one of the things that you can do to take advantage of this is start to create that long-form content and have a distribution game where you're redistributing it to TikTok, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and repurposing with, platform specific content in mind, but still repurposing so you can get the highest bang for your buck.